Hi guys, good afternoon. My name is Christopher. I'm the Corporate Communications Director for ZALORA. And we're here this afternoon to talk about one of the leading things that's happening right now in the world of e-commerce. So we've seen an accelerated trend of towards online retailing alongside customer operations. And with this, we're seeing that a lot of brands have to navigate challenges in Southeast Asia. So ZALORA is stepping in by offering one of its best service, a fulfillment as a service called One-Stop Solution or 1SS. And with us this afternoon is Matej Urban, who would be talking about more about our 1SS service and for brands and you guys to know more about what we do for fulfillment. So without further ado, Matej.
Hi, Chris. Thank you very much for the introduction and welcome, guys. So yes, as you mentioned today, I'm going to be talking about something that is very exciting for me, and that is fulfillment, and specifically fulfillment as a service, fulfillment as a solution. I'll try to keep it a little bit more general, but of course, I will zoom in specifically on our latest addition to fulfillment services, which is called One-Stop Solution. So let me share the screen, guys, so that you can also follow a little bit better what I'm going to talk about today. All right. So now you should be able to see the screen. So let me jump directly into the content. So first of all, let me just outline very briefly what we're going to be discussing today. I'll start with a short intro. Afterwards, I'm going to zoom on some of the main trends that we see in the e-commerce space. And from there, what are the challenges that our brands and brand partners are facing in this new normal, right? And finally, I'll spend, I guess, most of the time speaking about ZALORA's fulfillment solutions, right? And how our solutions and services can help brands to navigate this new normal. So as an intro, I just wanted to share, a little bit of background about myself, so that you kind of understand, where I'm coming from when I'm sharing some of these insights. So as Chris mentioned, my name is Matej, or you can call me Matt. I have been with ZALORA for the past 6 years, so since 2015. And I joined as a project lead as part of our operations team in Malaysia. Specifically, I was involved in creation of our regional fulfillment center. I'll speak about that later during the presentation. But that was one of the exciting projects I was involved in, and a few other key projects within the operations department. But more recently, I have joined our commercial team, and tapping into this experience and background, I guess, that I had in operations, trying to build a new line of services and solutions for our strategic brand partners. And, we call it today partner services. And this encompasses fulfillment, data and data analytics as a service, and all other kind of e-commerce value-added services that help our brands really to come online and to basically enable them to become connected, I guess, across different channels, specifically on ZALORA, but not only that. And you will understand what I mean by that once we progress to the next slides. So let's jump into it. I wanted to share 3 key trends that we as ZALORA, but maybe more importantly, I observe in kind of the region at the moment. So starting with digital adoption, right, or internet connectivity. What you might observe or what you might be aware is that our region, so Southeast Asia, is actually one of the most connected regions in the world, right? According to some research, and here I'm going to quote some numbers, according to research conducted by We Are Social, online penetration stands at around 66%. And this number is actually growing by 8 to 9% every year, right? But let me ask you a question, right? How many mobile devices do you own or do you have in your household? If I look at it from my personal experience, I have at least 2 phones, right? Both of which are smartphones. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of the households have more mobile devices than that, right? So what can we see based on this in the region and specifically on ZALORA? So as you will see in the slide, mobile is really the first thing that is on the mindset of our customers. So more than 85%, specifically 86% of all transactions are happening on mobile. Right? So this is a big driving force behind purchases on our platform, but actually across all the online platforms. Additionally, what we can see from this is that users between 16 and 60 years old spend on average 4 to 5 hours on their mobile devices, right? This is led by Philippines, Thailand, and Indonesia. However, Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam are very close behind. So we can see that a lot of the time of the customers and consumers are spent online and specifically on mobile devices. So what does this mean for us, right? So in spite of some of the challenges that we observe in the market, COVID-19, right, and the pandemic that is still observed around us has actually accelerated the e-commerce adoption throughout Southeast Asia. Also to quote some numbers here, right? So in countries like Indonesia and Malaysia, a large percentage, and I mean here about 80% of the respondents aged between 16 to 64, right, or 60 again, have made a purchase online in the last 12 months during the COVID pandemic. And what is even more important is that 3 out of 4 of these customers or consumers is planning to retain their habits even after the pandemic has kind of subsided. So we really see that the behavior of the customers and consumers is shifting and is becoming more and more driven online. Again, just to quote some numbers from ZALORA, as you would see in the slides, Singapore, Malaysia, and Philippines, both or all 3 have actually recorded a double-digit growth in terms of active customers and online shopping, right? And Singapore leading actually with more than 100% increase. So very, I would say, encouraging numbers when we're looking on the online retail. So secondly, I think moving on to the second trend. So what does this further mean for us, right? As I mentioned, right, the customers, consumers are shifting online. So does this mean an end to the shopping malls, right? Do we see an end to the traditional retail as we know it, so to say, right? So of course, with the lockdowns, circuit breakers, conditional movement orders that are still happening around us, we see a dwindling footfall, right, in retail stores, in offline stores, in shopping malls, etc. So really, if you would go to the shopping malls in most of the main cities in the region now, you wouldn't see, or you would see just a fraction of the visitors that used to come there. Then again, just to quote some numbers to really understand this, right? In Malaysia, 15% of the total retail supply is expected to cease operations. So what would this mean? Around 50,000 stores, right, are expected to close. In Philippines, on the other hand, we have about 2,000 establishments that are also expecting to shut down due to the pandemic. right? So again, I guess the million-dollar question here, is it what we see now in the market? Is it the end of the traditional retail shopping as we know it? This brings me to the last trend that I would like to talk about. And the answer to the question that I posted is no. So I don't believe that retail and offline will cease to exist. Definitely not. However, we see blurring boundaries between offline and online. So that means that customers are increasingly expecting to have an experience that is bridging the gap between both. They want to have access to information online. They want to be able to browse the products efficiently, quickly, from the safety of their home, on their mobile devices, perhaps. But at the same time, they don't want to lose the experience that they have in the retail stores, which is really what can connect them with the brands. So what this means for the brands is that it is becoming increasingly important, even critical, I would say, to remain visible in the current kind of market situation to the consumers and to the customers, right? The brands need to follow where the customers are and what the customers are expecting. Secondly, this also means that brands need to adapt their kind of supply chain and infrastructure in order to be able to tackle this new kind of omni-channel reality, let's say. Perfect. So few key trends, right? All of this information can be found in our ZALORA's Southeast Asia Trender Report. It's something very exciting, actually something that we have launched as part of our data services. I believe that we can share more information about this towards the end. I would probably leave that with Chris. At this point, I would then move on to the challenges, right? So now that we know the trends, what are the challenges that our brands and brand partners are facing? Let me take a quick sip. All right, so how do we navigate now this winding road of potential challenges that we face as we're trying to adapt to the new normal, right, and navigate the pandemic? Well, the first thing, of course, is just how do we go digital? How does a brand or how does a supplier, how does a brand go online? I think this definitely poses certain constraints and challenges to the brands because if we think about the setup that the brands need to adopt between offline and online channels, it is distinctively different, right? So there are specific kind of processes, perhaps certain structures that are important as a brand is going online. So again, just in summary, the first hurdle that I really see is, how do the brands overcome that initial challenge of going online? How do they maintain their kind of proactiveness and remain nimble, let's say, in the situation? Even though, let's say, their current structures and processes might not be fully adopted to be able to cater for online purchases. And I will speak a little bit more in detail about what I mean by that, right? We definitely see a lot of kind of initiatives, right, from the local governments, whether it's grants or schemes that are helping to promote small and medium enterprises to shift online. So that would be definitely one of the areas that I would recommend also to our brands and our brand partners to explore and see how they can tap into those incentives to overcome this initial challenge, right? But assuming we are going online, right? So we overcame that first hurdle. At this point, we need to start considering our inventory and assortment, Right? So if we compare offline to online in this kind of scenario, in terms of online fulfillment, we need to make sure, or if we, so let me take a step back, right? So if we think about being connected across multiple channels, right? We were talking about the trend of omni-channel, the customer expectations for brands to be omni-channel, right? So it is important to take into account what does this mean for our supply chain, our assortment allocation, and how are we able to optimize really, the allocation of stock across all the different channels that we want to be connected with. In the past, so again, if I compare the offline to online kind of channel, in the past, it might have been quite simple. I split my stock and I allocated across different offline stores, and perhaps I shift some of the stock to maybe one or two marketplaces, and they kind of manage it on my behalf, right? I think more and more it is important to consider this as a whole, right? And how that stock kind of plays around together, how that assortment can be optimized and made efficient so that customers can always find what they search for, right? Regardless of which platform, regardless of which channel they're trying to make their purchases. Thirdly, and again, kind of comparing the offline to online, online business poses additional challenges to the processes and operations of the brands. And the brands need to make sure that their resources, on one hand, are sufficient to be able to cater for this increased volumes, right? And secondly, they need to make sure that they fulfill or they meet the experience requirements of the customers. And what I mean by this, now if you compare it again with the offline channel, customer would come to your offline store and you can directly sell the products, and it's an immediate transaction. Whereas on the online front, the customers don't have that real kind of interaction. So we need to make sure that customers and consumers have sufficient information to be able to make that purchase decision. So this would be the look and feel of the online store. For example, the images that you're putting of your products and the content, right? Assuming now that the customer has been convinced and they have actually purchased, how do we prepare those goods, right? So in your warehouse, do you have the right processes to be able to quickly pack and prepare the goods for the last mile delivery, right? A lot of the marketplaces do have certain guidelines that needs to be followed. So that is posing also additional challenges. Now, and lastly, because that transaction isn't immediate, customers still have some expectations about how quickly that product will be delivered to their doorstep. So you need to make sure that you are partnering with the right kind of vendors and partners to be able to deliver it within the expected kind of promise and within the overall expectations of the customers. And finally, just very quickly, there's additional complications or complexities, let's say, that the brands need to overcome within the region, and especially as they're looking to expand across the region, right? So domestically, if you're just operating domestically, and as was kind of mentioned in some of the previous points, you need to be able to navigate and to deal with multiple kind of providers of services, whether it's your fulfillment, whether it's your logistics services, or if you're just dealing with multiple platforms, right? You might be dealing with ZALORA, but at the same time, you might be selling on other marketplaces like Shopee or Lazada, right? So that alone is relatively complex, right? Added to that, if you have ambitions to expand across the region, so you want to be tapping into multiple markets, that is just, geometrically kind of escalating that complexity, because then you need to be considering, your cross-border logistics. You need to be considering your taxations. You need to be considering localization of content, right? So I think the fact is that the region in which we operate is relatively complex, even though, let's say, some aspects like the internet connectivity is shared, culturally, and from the perspective of the customers, a lot of the markets are still very local, right? And for that reason, there needs to be some tailoring in order to, again, meet that customer experience. So yeah, those are the four kind of main challenges that I personally would see for the brands over the next couple of months as we are navigating through the pandemic and trying to adapt to the new normal, right? So the question, I guess, now would be, how can ZALORA help with this, right? So what have we done in order to help our brands actually overcome these challenges and to kind of ride the trends that I have mentioned? So let me give you a quick overview of some of the main fulfillment solutions that we offer before I jump into one-stock solution specifically. So our fulfillment solutions in the end are distributed based on the level of partnership. And so that's what you can see on the left-hand side. And based on kind of the process maturity, I would say, of the suppliers and the brands that we are working with. So if we start from the very top, this would be fulfilled by seller, which in the end, the only service that we provide as ZALORA is access to our platform. So all the processing of the orders, all the deliveries are still managed directly by the brand, right? And also the stock is located with the brand. Moving on from there, and as we are increasing the level of partnership, we have rolled out multiple cross-border routes, what we call international dropship routes across the region. And so as an example, brands that are originating from Malaysia are now able to deliver to Hong Kong, to Singapore, to Taiwan, without the need to put the stock into our warehouse, right? So again, based on the maturity, assuming that the brands are able to meet the delivery promise to the customers, pick and pack the goods efficiently, right? International dropshipping is something that they can tap into. What is, I think, the most exciting for me, however, is our Fulfilled by ZALORA and our one-stock solution service offering. So Fulfilled by ZALORA basically means we would bring the goods into our warehouse, right? And we are able to provide an end-to-end, basically e-commerce enablement services for our brands. And the main difference in the end between FBZ and OneSS is just the scope. So for FBZ, here we would be focusing specifically on sales on ZALORA and making sure that we are helping the brand to perform the best they can on our platform, right? But what we did, over the last couple of months is we realized that we have a very strong infrastructure and understanding of all these kind of processes that are specifically related to fulfillment, right? And for that reason, we decided that we want to expand this service across also other channels. So one-stock solution basically allows brands to tap into our infrastructure, right? And connect it with multiple different online channels. So this could be other marketplaces. This could be your brand.com, for example, if you're selling on Shopify, if you're selling on let's say Magento, or if you have your custom kind of brand.com, we can connect to that, and we can also do fulfillment on your behalf to all these different channels, right? Super, super exciting. So if I zoom in, on One Stock Solution now, just to add a little bit more details around it, right? So what do we feel, are the key benefits that a One Stock Solution can provide to our brand partners? So first of all, we are looking at the infrastructure, and so and we believe that ZALORA has the best, fashion e-commerce supply chain infrastructure in the region. So just to name, few highlights. In Malaysia, we have our regional distribution center, which is actually connected with 6 different markets. So from Malaysia, we are able to fulfill, of course, Malaysia, but also Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Philippines, and Indonesia. And so it's a fully kind of scalable cross-border operations that we are able to manage. We also operate additional fulfillment centers in Indonesia and Philippines specifically. We have a set of return hubs in Singapore, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, in-house delivery fleets, drop-off points, collection points, right? You name it. So we spent really the last 7-8 years in building this infrastructure and trying to navigate, as I mentioned, this complex kind of supply chain setup, right? That really enables a fully scalable cross-border operations optimized for customs, brokerage, and shipments to different markets. So again, very, very exciting, and I think something that the brands can definitely tap into as part of One Stock Solution. Moving on to the second one. If I zoom in, let's say, on the warehouse, right, and on the assortment, and inventory specifically, what we can provide as part of One Stock Solution is an efficient and optimized management of your inventory. Right? So it is kind of already in the name, but one of the key benefits of One Stock Solution is stock consolidation. Right? So because you are able to, or our brand partners are able to, connect multiple channels to our, operational setup, this means that we can actually create one single stock pool that is connected again to multiple shop fronts. And because of that, the brands can really optimize, the width of their assortment. They can optimize the depth of their assortment, so they no longer have to be splitting it across different locations. It can be all combined in one consolidated stock. And then it's just about, where are the orders coming from? So we can fulfill orders, again, that are coming from ZALORA, but also from many other channels. Moving on, the third kind of key benefit would be that we are able to cover, all the territories across Southeast Asia. So again, kind of touching on what I said towards the first point, fully scalable cross-border setup, 6 markets. However, there is, and that leads me to the last point, a full kind of flexibility for our brands to choose how they want to set up the service. Right? So One Stock Solution is really a modular, end-to-end multi-channel e-commerce fulfillment service. What a mouthful! But let me explain in a little bit more detail what this means, right? What do we mean by modular? What do we mean by end-to-end? And what do we mean by multi-channel, right? So for this, I'll move to the next slide. So first of all, what do we mean by multi-channel, right? So as part of our One Stock Solution service offering, we have actually connected many different shop fronts, right? Many different channels to our backend, to our operational management system, right? Which really allows us, again, to connect that single stock pool to all the different channels that you can see here on the screen. So it could be other marketplaces like Lazada, Shopee, Q10. It could be other e-stores, Shopify, Magento, or if you operate, let's say, a customized website. And of course, we are also exploring and adding other channels, more innovative social channels like Facebook and Instagram shops, right? So let's just imagine that all of this can be connected to that one single stock pool that you hold with ZALORA. Secondly, we are able to connect all the different markets. We can connect Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Indonesia, Philippines, plus we are expanding into other markets across Southeast Asia as well, right? And finally, we can also connect many different services. So at the core of our one-stop solution is really the warehousing and fulfillment. So one of the requirements would be that the stock has to be with ZALORA, right, and in one of our fulfillment centers. But apart from that, the brand really has full flexibility to decide, what other services do they want to tap into. Would it be last mile logistics and tapping into our cross-border setup? We can do the multi-platform account management, so managing the third-party online stores as well. And again, thinking a little bit about the challenges that we have been talking about earlier, one of the challenges definitely would be that on top of your offline and retail stores, now you have to manage additional shop fronts, right? You need to be managing your ZALORA store, you need to be managing your Lazada store. And this becomes even more complex if you're operating across multiple markets, right? So one of the services that we also provide as part of this is the account management, the store management on those other online platforms. And of course, things like payments, customer service, production. We were talking about the images and the content that is super important, and specifically returns, right? If you think about fashion specifically, fashion does have relatively high return rate, especially online, because the customers are not able to, let's say, try it on. However, ZALORA, with our extensive experience in fashion e-commerce industry, we have created processes that allow us to very quickly reprocess returns, put them back into inventory, put them back online, and boost the sell-through rates really of those products. Right. So all of these different services can be tapped into as part of OneSS. And if we take a quick example, which I think will make it a little bit clearer, what I mean by fully flexible and fully modular. So we can have a brand that wants to be live in, let's say, Malaysia and Singapore, and they want to be connected with Lazada and Shopee, right? This is absolutely possible, right? We are actually doing that today. And as part of services, it can be warehousing, last mile, customer service, and production, as an example, right? So what I'm trying to say by that is that it doesn't mean that a brand would have to be exposed to all of this, right? The brand has full flexibility, into which markets they want to go, which marketplaces they want to connect, and which services they want to engage with, as part of the one-stop solution. So it's, I find it, super exciting, and we're working with several clients already across the region, across different setups, right? It's very exciting to see how our brands and partners are able to tap into this service to boost their exposure online, to overcome some of the challenges that we have been talking about. Right. So how does it work? I think just very briefly, it's super simple, right? So the first step is really just brand will drop the products to our warehouse, right? So we bring the products into our fulfillment centers. From there, of course, we would inbound all the goods and put it into storage in our fulfillment centers. And once the goods have been, inbounded, the customers from the different channels that are connected can immediately, see that assortment available on those channels, right? And they can start placing orders for our brand's products, right? So all the connections are happening back end. All those connections are already established. So really, it's a click of a button for the brand to enable kind of that back-end connection. And once we have the stock in our warehouse, we can immediately start selling and connecting to all these different channels and platforms. From there, ZALORA would pick and pack as usual. So we're tapping into our infrastructure, which is by the way fully scaled, and there is no additional investment that is required from the brands, right? So this is fully, I would say, variable, so based on performance, and no additional investment is necessary from the brands in order to be able to access this service. Of course, then we send to the customer, and in case of any returns, we tap into our broad infrastructure of return hubs and return centers to process, to check on the quality, right, and re-inbound those returns back to storage. And again, the beauty of this is that you have one single stock pool, one assortment that you can connect across as many channels as you want to, in as many countries really as you want to. So really the decision is up to the brand and potentially up to you. Good. So I think I have been talking for a good half an hour already. So that brings me to the final takeaways from the session. And I have 3 that I would like to share. So first of all, and again, kind of thinking back about one-stop solution and the fulfillment services that ZALORA has recently rolled out. What I would like to highlight is really what we're striving towards, right, is the best-in-class customer experience that we can provide. Right? So whether it's through content and localization, logistics, cross-border setup, payment options and flexibility, personalized customer care, right? All of this has been, as I mentioned, built over the last, 7 to 8 years, and something we're really proud of. And because of that, we are now looking to expand it and offer it to our customers, to our brand partners, so that they can also tap into that and take advantage of that, knowledge and kind of infrastructure that we have been able to build. Which brings me to the second point, which again is around fulfillment, and specifically fulfillment made easy. So as I explained, we have a fully scalable and efficient coverage of all the main markets in Southeast Asia, operating 3 fulfillment centers, where one of them is regional and covering all the markets, right? And we definitely proud ourselves for our customer kind of delivery lead times and delivery promise, right? Offering next day deliveries and express deliveries, right? And again, all of this can be tailored into a solution that can be part of the fulfillment services that we can offer, right? And that brings me really to the last point, which is it's a tailored fashion experience. It's a fully tailored solution, covers end-to-end e-commerce services, right? And it's really up to our brand partners how they want to build it, how they want to connect. Whether it's ZALORA, starting with some of the specific fulfillment solutions for ZALORA customers, or as we're expanding our partnership with the brands, expanding it across their e-shops, across their social channels, or even other marketplaces. So yeah, very, very exciting times, and I'm personally very happy that this is something that I'm able to be part of, and to be able to support our brands as they are trying to overcome the difficult situation, and trying to really grow within the region. Right. So as the last slide, I just wanted to leave you with 2 quick notes. If you would have any questions, or you would be interested to know more about our fulfillment services, or any of the services, partner services that we offer, you can contact me specifically and my team on the e-commerce/services@zalora.com, right? Or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I have added the QR code here. So please feel free to reach out, and I'm going to be looking forward to your questions. Chris, perhaps I pass it back to you if there would be any questions.
Yep. Thank you, Matej. I think right now we don't have any questions on hand, but thank you so much for sharing the contact information so people can contact you. So people who are tuned in right now, we will have the video after this live on our YouTube page, and we will also upload this on our LinkedIn page so that more people can watch this. If you want to trace back the journey that Matej had in his fulfillment career, and what makes this particular service and offering pretty exciting, both for ZALORA and for our partners. So I think right now, everyone is talking about how retail is evolving. We hear a lot of news about how brands have been thriving and have been struggling, but at the same time, I think this is the time where we actually help each other. We're fortunate enough to be in that part of the fashion industry where we can actually make significant contribution in the recovery of a lot of brands and be a good partner to them in their digitization journey. So with this, I think, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. We're a bit sorry for the slight delay. Technical issues can be problematic sometimes, but we will have to upload this both on YouTube and LinkedIn, so you'll be able to watch it over and over again. And as Matej mentioned, please add him on LinkedIn if you do have questions about the service, or you can send emails to the email that he shared, which we will also put on the post on LinkedIn and on the copy for this video. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a good March ahead. So we're almost towards the end of February, and hopefully, you watch out for a big ZALORA birthday next month. So thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.